You don't find universities like us that have buildings or centers like that. You may ask, well, what do you do there? And we can talk about innovation and entrepreneurship and collaboration, but I love this analogy. As a weight room is to an athletics department, the Petrick Idea Center will be to the academy. That's our intellectual weight room.
Welcome, everyone, to the Illinois Wesleyan University podcast, where we'll be talking to great people about the big happenings and interesting news coming from the campus of Illinois Wesleyan University. I'm Demetria Kalodimos, proud graduate of the class of 1981. I was a music major during my time here at Wesleyan, but later went on to a long career in television news.
And I am Andy Kreiss. I am a proud graduate of the class of 1986, a music theater major that found my way to communications and marketing. And I'm really thrilled to be sharing this podcast and this vehicle with you.
Well, the feeling is so mutual. And the feeling is great when you're back on campus.
Isn't it?
It makes you young again, doesn't it?
It's so true. And this place has never looked more beautiful, I think. And it's really special to be here. In fact, let's bring our 21st president of Illinois Wesleyan University, Dr. Sheahon Zenger, is our very first guest on this inaugural episode.
Okay, let's get him here.
Let's do it. We have a special guest here, Dr. Sheahon Zenger, Illinois Wesleyan's 21st president. He has come to us through a circuitous route of other schools and institutions. It's such a pleasure to have you on the show. Can I ask you this? What's it been like with the first 2 years?
Well, first of all, I appreciate being called a special guest. I guess that's what happens when you invite yourself on as the first guest. It's been a blur. I've been talking so much as we approach commencement here about what this year's been and the previous year. And I've had people ask things like, you've now been here 2 years? And with my experience at these other institutions or universities that you referenced, I found home as one of our writers on this campus wrote in an article 2 years ago. It took me 60 years, but I found home. It's gone so fast. And what you find is the first year may not seem as fast, but once you get past that first year, they fly. We'll be sitting here 5 or 6 years from now talking about how fast it went, hopefully.
I think I was one of the first people you actually met when you came to sort of start your job, and you were a secret. And what I got the honor to do was have my photographer, Adam, come and take your picture for the cover of the magazine. That was a special surprise. And so now you're revealed and folks are loving on you.
Well, like Adam, Chris was the writer I was referencing.
Yes.
He's over there by
Yes.
Adam and did such a good job with that first magazine and that first article, I thought. And here we are 2 years later, and a lot of great things have happened through the commitment of our faculty and the dedication of our staff. And you will hear me talk incessantly about the talent of our students.
Yeah.
And really, it was such great effort on behalf of all three of those groups. My biggest job, I say this every time I get a microphone, is to just hold up a mirror to our students, our faculty, our staff, our alumni, and just remind them how good they really are.
2 years in, are you still getting surprised?
I am. Not often, but my first year, the answer was always that Illinois Wesleyan was every bit as good as I thought it was and better. And I could, probably the rest of the podcast will talk about that. But there's just so much good here. And so much, again, talent. I'm going to say it over and over and over. We just had, end of the year again, Edgar Lair was our Kemp Faculty Award winner this year, which is the Teacher of the Year. And he gave his presentation. And I thought I knew his history pretty well. But we have a faculty member on this campus who we're honoring this year that has discovered 110 new species of snakes, frogs, and lizards. 110. I mean, that doesn't happen on just any campus. Right. That's Ivy League stuff. And he's here and he stays here. We've got other partners in crime. I know you're going to have Gabe Spalding here in a little bit, that just finished being the president of all physics professors in the United States. Not liberal arts colleges, not R1s or R2s, all.
Right.
I mean, those are the type of faculty we have. You're going to hear from Joanne Diaz, who's a student favorite and just produced yet another book. The books that are written by our faculty, the accomplishments that they produce each and every year is just amazing. And that then impacts our students at a level that's, I think, unmatched in our niche.
It's an exciting time, too. I see ground broken right over here. I see things happening. And, of course, I read the magazine as an alum. It's hard to imagine. How do you plan?
Again, it's a team.
Yeah.
I don't know that I'm as organized as being the one that should get credit for that as much as the team should. I think you create an inertia. And I believe in a lot of, you've got to do your strategic planning, but out of that momentum of that initial inertia comes the organic growth. I think anything that's organic is best. And I could give you example after example of, we thought we were going to build over here. No, we built over there. Or we thought we were going to write that. No, we ended up writing that. Or I think that's what's really been happening at Wesleyan in the last couple of years is finding our strengths and then going with it.
And rethinking the liberal arts.
Yes.
Not that they're irrelevant in any way, but they have to grow with the needs of both education and the workforce.
Well, Demetria, you just triggered me on my favorite topic. And,
I think so.
We could talk about the 3 C's of Illinois Wesleyan being a classic and our sense of community and how challenging we are. We can talk about how you come here to participate as a student and not spectate as you do at some larger type universities. But what's really differentiating us, giving us our distinctiveness amongst private liberal arts right now, I think are what we refer to as the 4 centers. And I'm going to tease you with a few of them. I'll be more forthcoming with a couple, one being the Petrick Idea Center. You don't find universities like us that have buildings or centers like that. This Stanford has them, Utah has them, your R1s, even not even all your R1s, very few really. But in our niche, that is so unusual. You may ask, well, what do you do there? And we can talk about innovation and entrepreneurship and collaboration and interdisciplinary collaboration and studies. But I love this analogy that I stole from someone a while back, and that is, as a weight room is to an athletics department, the Petrick Idea Center will be to the academy. That's our intellectual weight room. I'm pointing to where it is over here as if people could see. But you know where Buck Hall is, and you know where Petrick is if you're watching this. Nothing's more exciting than that, other than my own favorite center, which is the Center for the Humanities, which we just stood up in the past year and a half. Joanne Diaz, I've mentioned earlier, is the director of that. And if you're going to be a liberal arts university in this day and age, you cannot forget your roots, your bedrock, your foundation. Whether you're in the School of Business and Economics, nursing, education, fine arts, you've got to remember the humanities upon which we're based.
Absolutely.
A couple of others. There will be an announcement in the next month or so about a center that revolves around all things STEM, something really, really special. And then finally, we just received a large gift 2 weeks ago to stand up a center for civil discourse, which I can't imagine there's anything more needed in our society today than that.
Certainly. Back to the Idea Center for a second, though. Are ideas born there or are they brought there? And a young person may think they have an idea, but they may be too timid to share that idea or explore it.
I think the answer is yes. As I've talked to these folks who live in this world of innovation and entrepreneurship, they love to use terms like incubators and accelerators. And so what we have is what they would refer to as an incubator. So yes, it can be born while someone's in there interacting with others, or they have the idea somewhere else on campus or off campus and bring it there where they can meet with the experts that can help fan the flames on that.
Well, we've heard a lot of exciting things about what's happened in the first 2 years. Look forward. What's going to happen in the next 2 years?
Demetria, you just took me back 2 years ago to when I was hired and I was up in the boardroom of Hanson Student Center, and the media was out there, and Tim Zerlong and I were standing in front of the cameras, and they asked me what my vision was for the university. And as you age, you learn. I've been asked that question a lot as I've taken on new roles. Said, I have ideas, back to the ideas, Andy. I have ideas, but I think it would be arrogant of me to say what they are until I have time to be on campus with faculty, staff, students, alumni, and then merge all of our thoughts and the concepts. And what's come out of that is what you've seen the first 2 years. So now let's fast forward to this point. I'm a little hesitant to say it'll be this and this and this and this, but now that I'm part of the family, what I'd like to share is I'm thinking in terms of the campus itself. We're in Buck Hall. Buck Hall will be alive again in another year and a half.
It's a great building.
Yes. This will be the future home of advancement and alumni and possibly administration, some of the administration. I hate that word, the provost's office, the president's office. Yeah, I said one time, if I ever get hit by a bus, don't call me an administrator at my funeral. I'm on record saying that now. Call me anything, just don't call me that. It just sounds so bureaucratic and Romanesque, I think that's who invented it. The next 2 years, from the building, the landscape of our university and what may emerge with new academic buildings and centers and things of that nature. And so I've got that in my mind. But with that is, what's that mean for the students? And it's this continued growth in these areas that we're so good at, from all things humanities to all things. One of our largest degrees now majors is finance. And what goes on in the Bloomberg Lab and the continued growth and emphasis on theater and the arts and music. And again, I don't want to leave out nursing because I'm so excited about who they are. And our young people, while it's a small group, those in education are special as well. But what will come from that will come out of a strategic plan that the faculty are going through right now. And so I don't want to get out in front of them. They're the core of this institution, along with our provost and his associates and the deans. I really believe that'll be really special.
You mentioned centers, the Petrick Idea Center, the Center for Humanities. Mm-hmm. You teased another one.
I did.
Can you give us any more?
And before I do that, Andy, as I'm thinking of this, the strategic plan, and I'm thinking of Petrick, a word that I hear from our faculty all the time is innovation. So whatever you're going to see, I think we were ranked second in the country in our niche in innovation this past year. I can only imagine when they see the Petrick Idea Center, whoever they are, whoever writes these things, the great plural they. Who runs our world. The what will grow out of that is something that I can't even imagine. All this innovation in each of these areas where our faculty and students are the experts. I did tease you about a STEM-related center, and I'm just going to spill the beans. And by the time people watch this, the beans may have been spilled. We will be the first undergraduate, let me say that again, we'll be the first university in the country that has an emphasis in quantum science and engineering. It exists in some graduate programs around the country at some really elite places, but no place, quite frankly, we're the only place that has a concentration in it. And we're about to have a center, the Ann and Alan Fisher Center for Interdisciplinary Quantum Science and Engineering. I think I got that right.
Wow.
I'm sure the students will shorten it to the Fisher Center.
Yeah, that won't fit over the door.
I like
You'll need some stationery that's longer.
The Fisher Center for Quantum, all things quantum.
Cool.
Folks, this is the future. I was with a colleague the other day at another university, and he was projecting that as big as AI is, we haven't even seen the beginning yet, because beyond that, it is all things quantum. And I wrote it down, and I can't wait to quote him. So his students come here. Might get a little competitive at times, but this is super, super, super exciting. And this is on a national scale. This isn't just something that's local, regional. This is of national importance.
Why hasn't anyone else done it first on the undergraduate level, and why can we do it more successfully?
We got a little lucky. We have a professor here named Narendra Jaggi. This is his life's work. This is kind of a Mr. Holland's opus moment. Mm-hmm. This is his life's work, along with colleagues like Gabe Spalding and others, that we are able to deliver it in a way that others are not. Now, others will try to catch up, mm-hmm. but when you do it first, it's nice to have a head start. And I can't imagine many catching us in the near future. Down the road they might. But by then, I hope that we will have created something so special that we will always have a stake in the ground.
And of course, the recruiter in you is chomping at the bit.
It is.
Because when you can offer something brand new.
Yes.
You know, one of the other cool things I believe, because I was at the conference where Dr. Jaggi announced that we were going to have this concentration in quantum, which was rare, but that even non-majors could get a taste of it to sort of cross liberal arts, that part, if you weren't a science person.
Yes.
Can you
Yes.
say more?
You know, Dr. Jaggi had a presentation last fall with 8 students who did summer projects in this area. It was so inspiring. I had them present again to our board when they were here in October. And I think there might have been one of us in the crowd who understood what they were saying, and he might have been pretending. These young people are off the charts, brilliant. So much so that when you go to the art gallery, it seems like half of them have artwork in the gallery. One of them is one of my favorite students. You're not supposed to have favorites, but Otis has one of the portraits that hangs in the house now, and I'm buying it from Otis permanently so that Otis can have a nice summer.
Oh, that's neat.
But that's who we have. We were at a BSU event, a Black Student Union event the other day, and all these students were putting on, it was poetry and art and this and that, and a young man was playing the piano, playing classical music. So was he a piano major? No, he's a physics major.
Right.
Again, back to what makes Wesleyan different, it's that. I almost expect those answers now.
The baritone you were loving and the thing is a math major. I knew that was funny.
Yeah.
The thing I remember about that conference was that Professor Jaggi had assembled all these past professors in science that were all there, and you really got that were still alive. From when I was here, Dr. Detweiler and these names, and it gave me shivers because you realized this was an arc of history, and Wesleyan was again leading in this new way, and it was like the tradition was there, but the vision was moving forward too.
Yes.
Very cool.
I think that's where we have a little bit of a Back to the Future going on here. I'm just seeing how many movies I can pull in here. I'm thinking back to Minor Myers and the vision he had of this being a baby Ivy. And while we're a little more, we've shifted from that to some degree with the professional schools and whatnot, but that's still at our very core. In the middle of the plains of Illinois, you can come get an education that is unique outside of the coasts. And I really believe that. And I'm a fan of several universities between here and the coasts, but what we do here is pretty darn unique in that regard.
Still ivy in the corn.
There we go.
Ivy in the corn.
There you go.
I love it. That's good. One of the things that I'm really struck by is how full the month of March and April and May are on this campus. So many realizations of the work that's happened. And I've seen you at a couple. Can you talk, and I love what you're doing in your newsletter, by the way, of saying these are my wow moments of the week. Can you talk about something you've just recently had? I saw you at a concert.
Yeah, this wow moment thing just came to life in the last faculty meeting, which would have been Wednesday, because as we come to the end of each faculty meeting, I often give shout outs. I didn't know what to call them, but a word that I use a lot is wow. And so I just started calling them wow moments because it seems like I constantly am being wowed. And in just the last few weeks, and I have a hard time not going all the way back to August and talking about every theater show and every musical performance and every art exhibit and every athletic event.
Can I just say something? That the fact that you show up and are there, and you are there, is something that is really wonderful to see.
Andy, I get a lot of credit for that, but I can't imagine not being there. My wife gets really tired of this. I think it's well known that I'm not a big traveler, don't want to travel. She's made me travel recently. I'm kind of embarrassed by it because I didn't grow up that way. Where I grew up, you just worked all the time. And a vacation was maybe going out for a burger. I was told one time that's not a vacation. I get it. Okay, I hope I'm not scaring people out there, but that was how I was brought up. I have been to some neat places in the last couple of years, thanks to my wife. But back to the point, I live on campus. Yeah. I live
You literally live on
Yes,
campus.
150 yards from a library. I grew up, my mom took me to the library every week. I mean, that's home to me. I'm 250 yards from a great restaurant that all the alums call Saga. My office is 125 yards away. There's a great basketball court, volleyball court, track. We call it the Shirk Center, with a football field, lacrosse fields, soccer field, baseball, softball out behind. Everything I like to do is right here.
And walking distance,
Yes.
too. Yeah.
And so why wouldn't I, when the students or the faculty are putting on a performance, why wouldn't I be there?
Right.
I'm not going to sit home and watch TV or go out with friends when they can come here and watch our students perform.
It is a vibrant place for sure.
We now pregame, that's a big, for the students out there, I know you all pregame before things now, not just athletic events. My wife and I host pregames for the theater shows. You know what? I've loved every theater show I've seen here, and I could go on and on about all of them, but I went into one that I was I don't know what this is going to be. A Year in the Life of Frog and Toad.
Wasn't it great?
5 actors. I was blown away. My wife, who's a second grade teacher, was really blown away, but I can't remember Toad's name anymore. I just call him Toad when I see him on campus. And I think for the rest of his life,
I'm sure he loves that.
He was so good, he will forevermore be Toad, I dubbed thee Toad. You ever see Animal House?
Yeah.
I dubbed thee Flounder, I dubbed thee Toad. How's that for a podcast? You never thought that comment would come out of it.
I love it. I'm thinking about the ways that we measure students, and you can say I can lift this much, or I can, my IQ is this. But the thing that I feel happens here and happened, and I don't know if you feel this as a graduate, I suspect you do, is it's like resiliency. It's your sense of being kind. I got this from David Brooks, and I just want to read it. Determination, your ability to be resilient in the face of failure, your ability to cast a just and loving attention on someone else. And I thought that spoke to me so much about what happens here. I wondered if you had thoughts about that, and is it why this was a place you wanted to come to work?
Andy, you know me too well. You know I have lots of thoughts.
I love your thoughts.
This could be a really dangerous thing, this podcast. I have lots of ideas.
Yes, well,
we could be here a couple of hours from now. You're queuing me up for, whether you knew it or not, we're going through this brand expression. We're not calling it a branding campaign because you heard me say the word bedrock and foundation earlier when it had to do with the Center for the Humanities. Well, this is something that I hope will live for us and with us for the next several decades, if not centuries. We have something here that's so foundational to our core. Some of our folks in the marketing department like to refer to it as in our ethos. That's not a word I used a lot in my life till now, but I find myself saying it. It's the do well, do good. Mm-hmm. John Wesley, who founded the Methodist Church, that obviously had part of our very founding, said something that I have somewhat committed to memory. I keep it under my desk in the office or under the credenza, where he talks about going out into the world and doing all the good you can at all the times you can for all the people you can. And I really believe Minor Myers took that
inspired him
in the 1990s and truncated it into go out into the world and do well, but more importantly, go out into the world and do good. And then our mixed choir, our university choir, took that, and one of our former faculty members' sons, who is a local community member, put it to paper. And now it's a song that we utilize all the time.
Have you heard it?
No.
They sing it often, and it gives you goosebumps. It's such a great tune, and I think you've asked that it be sung at graduation, but it's a beautiful musical setting of the Minor Myers speech.
I said it last year at commencement, and several other people did too. As a matter of fact, I Googled right before I finished my speech. I don't like to finish. I'd had it in place for several weeks, but the morning of, what would be a great end quote for a commencement speech? Top 3, Minor Myers. This is real. Top 3 in the nation or world is Minor Myers' quote. So right. I said it, others said it. So you know what? We're just forevermore going to sing it, right? Hopefully, it sounds like a Star Wars quote, but we're quoting Star Wars and Animal House. Where else are we going to go here? Yeah. But back to the do well, do good. When you talk about our students, I believe they come here and we challenge them from day one. And I believe they choose us whether they know the quote or not, because they feel it here. Yeah. This is a place where you learn to do well in the classroom or the theater or the music hall or the athletic field or the art gallery. But I hope what we're really teaching here is to do good for others. And I firmly believe when you graduate from Illinois Wesleyan, from the day you enter to the day you leave, you gain momentum. You know, I've seen young people at larger schools go in and sometimes lose momentum, lose confidence. That doesn't happen here. You can do this. You can run track and do theater and sing in the music halls. You can be in student government and major in this and minor in that. Right. And now we're going to have the Petrick Idea Center for you to do even more, which I want to explain this. I've added 2 words to do well, do good, and it's a version of it's do more. And I don't mean do more like go out and work harder, although that always is good. It's put in whatever word you want. Become more, achieve more, right. Dream more, create more. And I really believe that's what our students with all this talent do under the tutelage of these incredible faculty.
The banners hanging on the quad are talking about all the students involved in research. And I checked out the list of the John Wesley Powell Research Conference that was held recently. I was blown away. I mean, they're looking at postpartum depression, the Black Panthers, a historical piece on the, I forget. I mean, the list is, some are way over my head, I've got to admit, but others just seem fascinating. Are you blown away that these are undergrads doing this sort of thinking?
Again, Demetria, you're getting into my favorite things here. As I walked in there this year, last year I didn't get to attend the JWP as long as I did this year. There were some other things going on that I had to go to. So I was under the impression it would largely be STEM related because of John Wesley Powell's background. Every major we have, if you have an idea, it was there. I mean,
how high law enforcement officers can jump.
Yes.
I mean, this is important work, but I mean.
Yes. We had a young woman on the volleyball team whose mother was there with her. I thought it reminded me of my wife. She'd probably be there as well if it were one of my children. She had just student taught in one of our local schools and had a presentation on incorporating sportsmanship into the classroom for the young people who don't always win awards. Think about that. When you're you're the student of the month. Well, how do the others feel? I got pulled into so many of these different research activities. We had quantum research going on, psychological research going on, and these are undergraduates, but that's what happens at a place like this. You go to a large state school, that's what the grad students do.
Right.
You do it here.
Beyond your reach.
Yes.
Yeah. Yes. And also just the skills involved in presenting a complicated idea for an audience that you may be starting from scratch, that is a learning experience in itself.
And meanwhile, you're there and you have, I think it was a small part of the orchestra up in the balcony playing. I mean, this place just feels like college, back to it being a classic. I don't know if we're watching, Dead Poets Society or name whatever.
Rudy.
Yeah, Rudy, Mr. Holland's Opus.
Right.
This place, you could film a movie here every day.
You talked about JWP. We should say it's John Wesley Powell Conference, because I don't think they had that necessarily when I was here. But so cool. In fact, I knew there was a student who did a piece on women composers in the Broadway, and then she sang parts of it, but she presented that research. So cool, so different. You don't have to just be a STEM person to do the research here, which is so cool.
And there's so many presenters. It now has taken over the whole first floor of CNS building. It's upstairs. And who knows where it'll be in a few years, because so many students have research they've worked on and want to share it. Andy, you asked me, and I think I got too excited and went down some rabbit hole.
Never.
But Demetria, when you brought up John Wesley Powell, I've got to say, just in the last few weeks, never mind back to August, but the last few weeks, the Fine Arts Festival, the theater production of Pride and Prejudice, softball winning so many games and once again being conference champions, the men's volleyball team playing for a conference championship, and we all know what both basketball teams did and volleyball did, and we can go around the horn on all of those groups. But this last Saturday, we had, for the first time in many years, if ever, a collaboration between music theater, vocal performance, and the wind ensemble orchestra. It might have been the most impressive event I've attended in 2 years. The 5 soloists that we were talking beforehand that I think could all go straight to Broadway, the choir that I referenced already, participating in parts of that, and the wind ensemble that played throughout the whole thing, it was off the charts good. They did the music from 6 major Broadway musicals. I went home and called them up on Hulu and Prime and Netflix, and I'm not nearly through them, but those aren't as good as watching our students do it.
You know, it's funny. When I was here, the School of Music and the School of Theater Arts mingled some. Then it hasn't happened, but for 20 years it hadn't happened. And the kids in the choir sang with the music theater students, and the orchestra played. And I mean, it really was special.
And if you attend those events, you look at the choir and go, oh, there's back to Toad. There's Toad, and there's Frog, and there's Mr. Darcy from Pride and Prejudice.
And there's a volleyball player.
Yes, it's exactly right. And there's one of the birds from, it was amazing to watch them. And then when you see the young people come out of the orchestra, you just see them. I don't think there's a student on this campus. I would doubt that there's a student on this campus that's not involved in anything. And it's rare to find one that's involved in just one thing.
Right.
We have athletes that are in the choir and orchestra members who are in the theater.
Yes.
And student government cuts across all those entities, and they major in so many things. I have to talk about, back to the Fine Arts Festival, the art gallery, which is where we kick off the Fine Arts Festival, and I am supposed to purchase one piece each year for Holmes Hall or the house or whatever. And
a permanent collection.
Yes. Yeah. And last year I purchased 2. And this year I tried to purchase 2 again, break the rules. And they were the same 2 artists. I mean, maybe I have a type or something, but phenomenal what these young people do. The real point is, of all the art in that gallery, 70% is from non-majors. If that doesn't describe Illinois Wesleyan better than any other example I can give you about who our students are, I think that does.
And you've been at these colossally big campuses. There isn't the opportunity to participate at that level.
That's right.
In a place where just numerically you can't cut through. I would assume you consider that a strength of keeping the student body where it is.
I tell all the prospective students and their parents, we're not a school looking for 10,000 freshmen or transfers, or even 5, or even 2. We're looking for 500 to 550 of the best. Now we're going to quote Top Gun, the best of the best. That's who we want here. But it's not for everybody. It's for the right fit. Right. And it's particularly for those young people who have multi-talents that want to come here and not leave high school and say, well, I used to play this sport in high school, or I did acting in high school, or I was in music. No, come here and continue so that you can continue. These 4 years are so important in the life of a human being, all of ours. It's a little further in the distance for us, but it's what launches you into everything that you do. When you talked about what you did for a career, it started here, and you ended up doing things outside of what you majored in. But it gave you the foundation again. That's Illinois Wesleyan.
Had I not wandered into the basement over there in Kemp Hall and been on the radio,
the radio station,
that would have been a distant dream, but not a reality for me. And that led to a January short-term internship, and then the ball was rolling. It wasn't easy to make a very big leap from music into journalism, but it was workable and doable, and
Can I say one of the other things that shaped my experience was not only did all those opportunities exist, and I think more exist now than they did when I was here, it was who I met. And they are still some of my very best friends, are friends that I met here because of this sort of cross. We were just doing things across the campus together, and it bonded us. And even now, 40 years later, I'm still friends with them.
So were you one of these multi-talented people? I mean, if you could rewind right now and do the one thing that you weren't able to do in undergrad, what would that have been?
Okay, my wife makes fun of me for this. She goes, you've just been too influenced by Illinois Wesleyan. Because we had 2 friends from college here visiting back in October, and we were giving them a walking tour of campus, and I said something about, I should have gone here. I didn't know places like this existed. I went to 3 undergraduate institutions trying to play football, be more involved in English literature, pursue a religious bent for a while, and then pursue a very strong social bent, as college often does. But it took 3 universities to help me find that. It's all right here. And I said, if I'd have come here, I'd have probably even done a theater show, which my wife thought was humorous and exaggeration, and I'm still living that down. Evidently, she doesn't think I have that skill.
Oh, I could see you as Frog.
I would have liked to have been Frog, Toad's taken. He's got that, or Mr. Darcy. He was quite the guy.
Wasn't that a great production?
Yeah. Yes, that's why I get so excited. And I say to these students and their parents, I'm just out to save 500 students a year. And I mean that, from a life of nothingness or apathy or neutrality, or come here and do something.
Yeah.
Don't go somewhere and watch someone else do it.
Yeah.
In the meantime, get one of the best educations in America, because our faculty will not let you escape that. When you were talking about something in STEM, I'm not going to name names because they're all outstanding. Chemistry, biology, physics, even neuroscience. I see our students approach these faculty, and it's almost like the faculty literally say, you do it. It's not, well, let me just talk at you about it, or here's what I'm doing. They bring you in and tell you to do it. And I think that happens in theater and art and music, athletics, every day. And if we go a step further, in the Bloomberg Lab over in the School of Business and Economics, and nursing, the lab space there, and the hands-on teaching that our nurses get. That's what I hear from the hospitals in town. Our nurses come out differently than nurses from other places.
It sounds like everyone succeeds and no one ever has a challenge or a challenging time, the way we're talking about it.
Yes.
But to be real, what happens when you have a struggling student?
We all struggled, and they all will too. You've got to have some adversity in your life.
Yeah.
Our generation has made some mistakes with we're the original Velcro parents and marble sweepers and all that. We've affected our own children and others. So I think it's incumbent upon us at a university level to make sure you allow the students to struggle a little. But the great thing about this place, there's always someone there to pick you up, and it doesn't take long to find who they are.
That's reassuring. Not being a parent. If I were a parent, or my niece is here with me today, also an Illinois Wesleyan graduate. The parents are so trusting. They are trusting their most precious possession to this place, and to know that they're allowed to maybe stumble and skin a knee, but they're not going to go down.
I had one of my children transferred from a large state school to a school more like this, and when he left that large state school, nobody called. Nobody. I don't know if they even noticed, outside of friends.
They weren't curious. Why is she leaving?
No.
Why is he leaving?
And yet here, we go through reports around the holidays, students that are struggling. This rises to the cabinet level. We actually talk about young people who are maybe going on leave, or going to take a year off, or we're afraid they might transfer. Somebody's reaching out. And usually by the time any administrator or counselor gets there, the faculty are already there and can tell you more about that young person than you'd ever want to know. Now, that doesn't mean everyone's always going to come here and stay forever. No one has 100% retention. Trust me, 7 states, 11 schools, 14 moves. I always joke I'm like that old guy in the Farmers Insurance commercial. I know a few things because I've seen a few things.
Yeah.
I'm not smarter than anyone. I've just seen some things. Yeah. It's not like this everywhere.
That's really cool. I know Illinois Wesleyan's retention rate is one of the best in the nation. Yeah. What else do you want to talk about? What else do you want to say?
I could go all day. Again, anything I'm going to say is going to go back to the core of who we are as an outstanding faculty. And you start there. A university, by definition, is a community of scholars. And once you assemble that, then you attract the students. Now I'm going to quote what Karate Kid, how's it go? When the pupil is ready, the teacher appears.
Yes.
Well, the teachers are already here. The pupils then come to them, and we have an amazing staff surrounding them, willing to help them with all the things outside the classroom. It's just a special, special, special place. And I'm lucky to have found it. at this time in my life, to quote one more movie, Mr. McGorham's Magic Emporium, where Dustin Hoffman, at the age of 800, when they ask him how he knows it's time to retire, and says, well, do you see these shoes? Hundreds of years ago, I found them. They were the best shoes I ever saw, and I bought 80 pair. These are my last pair. This is my last pair of shoes. Illinois Wesleyan's my last pair of shoes because of all this specialness I'm talking about. This is what college ought to be and should be and can be, and we are.
We're talking to a lot of alums out there, fellow alums. Just had an all-in event that was tremendously successful.
Yes.
What's your message to folks that are out there and now, doing good and well?
Thank you. It's thank you, because so many people have joined in this effort. And that record setting, I think it was 3.661 million or something like that.
But who's counting?
Yeah, right. Sometimes you can get focused on things, right?
But what does that enable us to do?
It allows, so much of that money goes into what we call the Wesleyan Fund, which allows me and other leaders the opportunity that when a student has a research project or can't go on a trip to Spain that they need to go on or has to do one more thing, and this happened last year, to get into medical school, we have the money to help them do it. It's discretionary money for that, or for faculty research, or you name it, or maybe we need a room, a lab of some kind that we don't have. Boom, we can do it. That's what All In Day is all about. It helps us do those little things that we couldn't otherwise do.
These new spaces that you're talking about, the Petrick Idea Center, the one for the humanities, how important is it for people? We all, communicate on devices and remotely. How important is it for us to be around a round table and eye to eye and sharing?
Demetria, I hadn't thought of it that way, but you named both of those centers have physical spaces.
Right.
The humanities is in the first floor of CLA, for anyone who wants to come visit. An exciting place to be, where the students now hang out and do what I like to do and hang out with books. And your faculty are there with you talking about books. And I hope there's a dotted line between the Petrick Idea Center and the Center for the Humanities and these two other centers we've talked about, because if it's not face to face, if it's not a break from social media, I'm pointing to our phones over there, then we've really failed. Which takes me to, after several years of articles and media beating up on higher education, specifically liberal arts universities, all of a sudden we're back. There have been, seems like dozens of articles lately saying, you know what, in this age of AI that's both exciting and scary, if you're going to succeed, you better have a liberal arts education, because that's what AI can't do. AI doesn't have a heart or a soul, and doesn't have a human brain that allows us to tell stories. I read a book by Angus Fletcher called Storytelling that addresses this very issue, that I believe liberal arts universities, colleges and universities are training the next generation of young folks who are best suited for the age of AI.
And that moment of collaboration, when you have a great idea and you want to share it with someone that might be able to advance it to the next click.
Yes.
I mean, if that person's
over
around
in
the
that
corner,
building, or sitting at the table over there.
Yeah, I mean, because why wouldn't we do everything remotely if it if it wasn't important to gather?
It's funny, during COVID, I was at another university, and my predecessor was scared to death that no one would ever come back to college. They'd just be remote.
Right.
That's not human instinct. We want to be,
we're
a social
we need
being.
To herd up.
Yes. No, if nothing else, go to college just to be with people. I'm making light of that.
No, but it's true.
You might actually learn something while you're there, but go be with people of like mind and not like mind, and grow.
One of the things that we're hoping this podcast does is inspire people to read. Could you recommend a book that you are loving or have loved, and what you might share with our audience?
Or 10 or 20.
Or 20 or 20, but maybe just
narrow it down to one for today.
Again.
So I discovered, as an English lit person, I resisted audiobooks for years and years. But I was doing a lot of traveling when I was at TCU a decade ago, and I finally gave in. I recommend Audible to anyone. for when you're in the store, driving across town, but not for your brain to grow. I believe someone should be reading a hardback or softback, and I'm not talking about Kindle here, I'm lecturing. You've got to have it in your hands. You've got to turn the page. And don't always speed read. I've taught speed reading. Sometimes you got to just chew on each word. And yes, that's what poetry's about, and prose. But right now, I am in the, I'm serious. I have 10, 15 books I want to share. I have to mention one called The Measure that will make you think about your life. Go out and get it. But right now, I'm about to finish later today a book called Theo of Golden, which in our times right now has been one of the most soothing, reflective books I've ever read. And I've read a few reviews of it that other people are having that same experience. So on your Sunday afternoon, go to Barnes & Noble or the library and get Theo of Golden. I think you'll be grateful that you did.
It's
fiction, yes.
Okay.
Yep.
Are you a fiction or nonfiction guy, or is it
both
on balance?
Love historical fiction. That kind of brings together a lot of what I really like. But you've always got to have a good novel. Back to the Audible. I've got 7 or 8 books open at all times. The way some people listen to music, I listen to books. Do you want a leadership book? Do you want a self-help book? Do you want an inspirational book? Do you want a novel? Do you want something more poetic? It's all right there.
Right.
But in my hands, I usually like to have a good novel or some historical fiction.
One time I remember you called me on a Saturday and said, I'm reading The Godfather.
Yeah.
And I was like, that's cool.
You got to go back. Some of these great movies, I love doing this, that you grow up thinking, oh, it's just a movie. A lot of our great movies were books. Go back and read. I love the movie The Natural. I've watched it a dozen times.
Thank you. Best soundtrack ever, Randy Newman.
How about this? The author is Bernard Malamud, one of our greatest authors of in recent history. The book ends differently from the movie.
That happens a lot.
Yes. But in a movie, you got to hit the home run. You got to knock out the lights, and you got to be a hero. The ending of the book, because most people aren't going to go get it, after he strikes out. Think about the beginning of the book. He strikes out. He's the farm boy that strikes out the babe. At the end of the book, he strikes out by a farm boy. Oh, and the last scene then is, and by the way, he buries Wonder Boy out in right field, and the love interest leaves. She doesn't stick with him, and it ends with him walking down the Lexington Avenue in New York, and the paper boys got a picture of him yelling about how this famous guy has struck out, and that's the end of the book.
The circle of life,
which is how books work. Movies don't work.
Movies not so.
No,
you movie guys ruin everything.
No, you got to have a happy ending mostly. Well, this has been really special.
I think we went down a bunch of rabbit holes, but that's kind of my nature.
Well, we'll have you on again.
Oh, please come back.
Yeah. Well, I know you have other guests, and I thank you for letting me be the first one. For the viewers, we just needed a guinea pig, and I was a really good guinea pig. Hopefully, we've got this launched and running, and that for the next year and years to come, this is a way we can tell the Illinois Wesleyan story. Because we live in a day and age when media just can't keep up like it used to. It breaks my heart as someone who has a master's degree in journalism.
Yep.
What's happened to media is really, really, really sad. They can't keep up. Social media's kind of overtaken them. But we have a lot of good stories to tell. And this is one of the ways we're going to tell them to our family and extended family and friends.
Yeah, and we hope that you're listening and watching next time when we bring back more of the Illinois Wesleyan story.
I love it. Thank you so much.
Thanks.
Thank you. Do good.